You like culture. All right, Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor,
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Okay,
Okay, Madam Mayor, we can go ahead and call to order the joint special meeting of Reno City Council and Reno City Charter meeting.
okay. We have to call the roll?
We do. I will start with Reno City Council. Breckus, Dewar, Delgado, McKenzie, Jarden, Bobzine absent, Sheevy.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council. Reno City Charter Committee, Dis, Pullman, Brown, Thornley, Valoria, Leader, Rossi, Stevens, Valletta, Williams absent, Korbulik, Enos. Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Charter Committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any public comment?
There is no public comment registered with me at this time.
All right. Just really quickly, what item do you have this on the agenda?
Madam Mayor, this is a separate agenda, and so if it's easier, I can walk through the
Someone
process,
just-
as we will need to take approval of the agenda. As
Right.
this is a joint meeting, I'm
Council
looking
members
to
don't
the
have it,
attorneys.
so You got one? Councilwoman Dewar doesn't. Okay.
I would be looking to the attorneys for confirmation that as this is a joint meeting, not a concurrent meeting, we can take one motion and from the bodies as a whole. Thank you for that.
Right.
So with that, Madam Mayor, we would be looking for approval of the agenda.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve. I have a motion. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Our next item is approval of minutes from the Charter Committee. I would be looking for a motion from the Charter Commission Committee on this one, as they are their minutes.
So Charter Committee, I had a chance to review the minutes. They look okay to me. I don't know if anybody caught any corrections that we need to make. If not, hold your peace. Can I get a motion for approval of the July 19th as well as the August 1st minutes for the Charter Committee? So moved by Member Pullman, second by Ms. Stevens. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next item is a presentation regarding Charter Committee's final recommendations and explanations.
Okay. It's all you, Mr. Gillis.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, City Manager Newby. I'll do a quick introduction here on this item, the work the Charter Committee has done, and then Mr. Dis will get into specifically the details of the recommendations the committee has made and the reasoning and the explanations for those recommendations. I'll make this quick. The Charter Committee had 3 new members join this session, Heather Korbulik, Nettie Stevens, and another attorney, Doug Thornley, who you may know from his time with City of Sparks in the past. They met 8 times starting in January. The first meeting, Andrew Dis was elected chair, Johnny Pullman was elected the vice chair. The committee, as they normally do, looked at a range of issues that are within the charter, took feedback from staff at times, the public at times, and ultimately vetted a number of potential changes to the charter, proposed changes to the charter. As they've done in the past, this charter worked under the rule of a recommendation wouldn't be approved by the committee unless there was a majority vote of the committee to make that recommendation. Like I said, Mr. Dis he'll walk through the actual recommendations made. I'll note that some of the topics that were discussed that didn't end up being approved for recommendation were granting the Charter Committee its own legislative bill draft, changes to the mayor's roles and duty under the charter, and the idea of the appointment versus election of the city attorney. Ultimately, though, no other recommendations were made other than the 3 Mr. Dis will present to you now, and with that, I'll turn it over to the chair to do that. And just for kind of a point of procedure, the way the agenda is set up is they'll go through the recommendations. take feedback from the council as to those recommendations. And it's the second item in which is agendized for possible action as to decisions regarding whether or not to use a city bill draft for the changes. So we'll kind of go into the substance of the recommendations first and then the procedural part.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman Dewar.
Bill draft, the mayor's role, and I missed the last one he said.
The appointment of the city attorney.
Okay, thank you.
With that, here's Chair Dis.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council. So, as Mr. Gill stated, there's 3 changes that we're proposing to make to the charter. The number one is in an instance where new land is going to be added to a ward. Possibly the city's going to annex land from the county in the future, and the charter committee wanted to make sure that that land is contiguous geographically with the ward that it's closest to. So, if land in the North Valleys was annexed by the city, we would make sure that that would be in Councilmember McKenzie's district as opposed to Councilwoman Dewar's in the south side, just because of geographic reasons. There's another piece in there where we give broader discretion to the council on when you all would decide to do redistricting outside of a census year. There might be some changes within the city that necessitate that, and we put in some language that it just makes it a little bit broader for you guys to determine when it's appropriate to do so. The second change that we're proposing is something that we talked a little bit about 2 years ago when we went through this process, and that's campaign finance reporting. The issue of transparency is important to the Charter Committee. It has been over the last several sessions that we've gone through this. And what we're proposing to do is go to monthly reporting, and that would be for election and non-election years for council members. Reno City Council meets essentially every 2 weeks, and with our current system that we have set up, you guys remember that for those of you in a non-election year, we moved to a quarterly reporting system, but we feel like you guys have had a lot of time to get used to that new system, to see if you're comfortable with it. Ms. Attorney's office has set up that process where you report any contributions, and the committee, because of transparency reasons, we feel like it's appropriate to move to a monthly reporting system, and we'd like to see that within the charter itself. If you put it in the charter itself, it's a strong statement as opposed to just doing it through ordinance. Nevada continually ranks towards the bottom in transparency in governance rankings, year after year after year. A lot of that is based off of our lax laws. We have a campaign finance system that's geared towards the legislature. But cities are really laboratories for the nation itself. And things that we do here within the city of Reno, they can set the bar for the rest of the state, for other municipalities. And we feel like that's a worthy inclusion to change in the charter. And then the third proposal is non-gendered language. So there's approximately, 35 instances or so within the charter where there's a reference to a position as his or her. And we want to change to some language that's not gender normative. There's a lot of citizens within the city itself that they just don't identify with the binary his or her language that's within the charter. So the committee felt like it was important to make that change to encompass everybody and how they identify within the city of Reno. So those are the 3 changes we're proposing, and happy to take any questions from all of you.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'll start with you, Councilwoman Breckus.
Yeah, thank you, all of you, for your service. I appreciate it. I really don't have any other questions. I think this is the year I went once to one of your meetings, and usually I would go twice, but I think you did a great job. I will respond to the 3 that just off the top thoughts that I've had, and I've talked to Mr. Dis, who's my appointee, about this in advance of this meeting. The non-gender language, I really thought we took care of that the first you go around. And it's interesting because, yeah, so I thought we had it, because I remember the first time I went to vote for myself, it said councilman, and then it was my name, vote one councilman. And I thought that next time we took it around, but maybe not. And it's interesting because that description of the gender identity is really a concept I was trying to bring up when we were talking about our adult business ordinances and that language dropping into the ordinance, and you put it very well too. So anyway, that's that. Number two, the campaign finance. I mean, I was strongly on board and talked about that concept with you all last cycle, and it was great to see it come to fruition. And we've had 2 reportings on it already, and I think it's worked out pretty well. I wanted to go. I think last time you said in every other month report, and I like that idea a lot. But then we ended up with just some general language in the charter, which is, the council should adopt a timely reporting, and we did that by ordinance, or was it resolution? I can't remember. I think it was resolution, and it's doing well. I would be okay with going monthly, because I do agree with the transparency. It's just, I don't know if that's enough for me to want to drive a whole charter bill, because there's so much work, and I would really like a session, like I told you when you all convene, I would really like a session where we don't bring a charter bill forward, if that's the will that we're going to go with, a new governor and all that. But we'll just leave it at that. And then the annexation and redistricting is very interesting. I think it has been our practice to add it on sometime, and usually it's pretty clear. Sometimes it's not so clear, but I don't know. Did you do any research with what state law talks about on political boundaries and see if state law already requires contiguity? I mean, is state law silent on contiguity of political boundaries? And
We didn't have the discussion from the state law side of it within the committee. We just looked at the existing charter language, and there was no provision that it go contiguous to the geographically closest ward.
Okay, and just, if I may, Madam Mayor, just the last concept on the redistricting, because we had a little bit of that discussion about that here not too long ago. I can't remember the context. And I know the charter says if you suspect you're within 10%, and we probably are, because no one knows how they left it after the last redistricting. I've asked for that. It might have been 6 or 7%, and we may have gone out of balance immediately. And that was when we were in a real slowdown and not growing. So we don't even know where we're at. But even if we were on a path where we thought we are definitely one's 20%, I don't know that we have the metrics to get those census data numbers on our own. It gets into questions of the 5-year census count and so on, and I think that's kind of a query point that we need to get those mechanics in place to think about how would we even do a mid-decade redistricting calculation. We might have to create our own methodology, and then it has to be defensible. I don't know. Did you all think about that, or to have discussion about that?
We had a little bit of discussion about it, but we were also cost conscious. We know that undertaking a census is not cheap if the city is footing the bill itself, as opposed to every 10 years when the feds do so. But that's why we left it broad in that section C, where we changed that last sentence to just say may otherwise be changed at the discretion of council, and leave it up to you.
Yeah, and maybe it would meet some tests if we developed a methodology. We know we have this many housing units. I don't know how you count people. I think someone somewhere knows.
All right, Councilwoman Breckus, I'm gonna
Okay,
move on.
thank you.
Okay. Councilman Delgado.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, thank you to all of you guys for volunteering all your time. And to your point earlier on I believe your guys is number 3, I know when I was on the charter committee, when it was first created, that's something that we worked on. And so just amazing me that we still haven't completed that, but I think that's definitely a worthwhile thing to do. To the same point as Councilwoman Breckus' points with the ward boundaries and how we do the census, I know it's not too far from now, we're gonna be doing the 2020. And then I don't know how many years just after that, we'll do the 6th ward, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it's just
2023.
Yeah, 2020. So it's just, do we wait, or is it, I mean, or is, to your point, Councilwoman Breck, is in terms of, do we know if a ward is just being, so maybe North Valleys or Ward 2 that we know are going to be heavily impacted, and then that's the time that we got to start looking at the housing and how many people moved in, so it's not lopsided. I mean, that's just some things to definitely consider. Because if we go and start changing it now, then we got to change it again for the 6th ward, et cetera, et cetera. And do we wait for after? Did you guys have those discussions?
Yeah, but the new language is not a mandate if it was going to pass the legislature this next session where you guys would have to come right back and start redistricting immediately. It's still within the council's discretion to do it when they feel like it's needed.
Gotcha. I know they've been having there's been talks about the lands bill, and that's over between Councilwoman Dewar and my ward on the southeast. So it'd be interesting to see how the geography would be if we did some land swapping and we who took on what ward and then the populations there, right? Or I mean, it just, I guess, depends to make sure that we're all equal in terms of overall. I'm answering my own question, but we have, yeah, I mean, thank you for the discussion, because I think we're going to need all the tools we're going to need to make sure that we have proper oversight. But to your other point on the campaign contributions, you said that we've had it, and we for quite some time now. We've done 2 reports. I mean, I'm okay with, but I don't know if monthly. I think we had this conversation last time. I don't know if monthly is too much, or I mean, I know transparency is great. I mean, I'm fine with doing it, but is it worth taking a whole bill up there to add that? I just don't know if it's necessary or not. Because once you take it up there, then we give them the open book, and there's a lot of things that we can change, right? And is it worth opening up our entire charter for the sake of saying that we can go monthly? I don't know. I don't know if we're necessarily there. I'm fine with that, but I think doing two reports just right now, I think, and doing that maybe for the next few years, it's fine with me as well. But I'm open to the council's suggestion, but I don't know if we want to open up our charter for necessarily for doing a monthly transparency piece to it.
All right, thank you, Councilman Delgado. Okay, at this time, Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you very much. Kind of echo some of the questions or comments were some of the same as me. I did ask during our agenda briefing about the campaign contributions, and it's not. We went to the quarterly, and that's not been a huge deal. I mean, it's kind of easy to fill it out. I don't know that I really feel strongly anyway. My question is how many people from the public are asking for that? And I think the response I got was none. So I'm not sure when you say that we're at the bottom of the barrel for transparency, I'm gonna push back a little bit and ask you, Northern Nevada, and where did you get that information?
That's statewide ranking for Nevada, and that's coming from USA Today 538 and the Center for Public Integrity.
And when was that?
The most recent one was 2017, last year.
But the legislature doesn't have open meeting law, am I right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, very
Yeah,
different.
because that's not, I actually kind of hear the opposite, that we have been great here. And so that's why when I asked about who's, is somebody coming and asking for it, that's one thing, but it doesn't appear that they are. I don't really feel, I mean, it's not that big of a deal to do it, but I don't mind waiting a little longer to, on the quarterly basis. I'd be curious to know what the staff resources are to collect it and upload it or post it or whatever. I can't imagine it's a lot, but I just don't know if it's worth bringing a bill.
Yeah, well, and just to clarify on those rankings, when I said that Nevada's at the bottom, there's multiple measures that they're looking at. So one is our campaign finance reporting system, but another one is, lobbyist registration, what they have to report, the awarding of no bid contracts, things like that. So it's not just municipal government, it's all levels of the state government that they're looking at and how they operate. And to your other point about the number of people in the public requesting the reports, maybe they're just really good at finding them on their own.
Which I understand there's not a lot of traffic doing that either.
Yeah, just even hits on.
Yeah, there's not much of that either. So it's really kind of a non-thing. I don't really care either way, to be honest with you. I'm just not sure we want to bring a full charter bill for it. The census, the questions were asked and answered, and I think that's the only thing I had. And again, you guys do a tremendous job. The stuff on the lobbyist registration, I think we've made great headway in that regard. And I appreciate all you guys' work and that you do. So thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Dewar.
Thank you. I too want to echo the comments about what a good job you've done, because I know what it takes to come to monthly meetings or every 3-week meetings to tease through administrative kind of stuff and look for potential problems. And you're doing a great service for us by doing that. Since most of it's been said, I'll just address the one issue, which you started down, which is that we did adopt, and some of the new members may not know or may know, we did adopt apparently the first lobbyist registration for city in Nevada. We did adopt the quarterly reporting of campaign finance or campaign contributions, first city in Nevada. I'd like to just let it settle, get a year or two under our belt that way. I'd like the rest of the state to catch up with us before we start adding more that way. You know, let's set a model and let's stand proud and let's let some other cities do what we've done. That's what I would like to see personally. But I'm really glad we did it, and I supported it. I mean, in terms of quarterly, seemed very reasonable. Original proposal, I think, out of the committee 2 years ago was like every day or every Monday, you know, weekly or daily, and some of that seemed very onerous.
No,
and
the language from 2 years ago was also monthly, and then the place where we met in the middle was the quarterly, and instead of the charter, we would do it through resolution and ordinance.
yeah. Well, I heard at least weekly, that was a conversation. And someone had talked to me, maybe it wasn't you guys, maybe it was somebody else on council or out in the public talked to me about daily. Like the day you got it, you should report it, that kind of thing.
If you guys want to do that, we're all for it. So
Yeah,
go
right.
ahead, feel free.
That was a no, because I was the one who actually brought up you could be on vacation that day when the when the check came in. But anyway, regardless of those small points, I too thought we already took care of non-gendered language. That should have been like so 10 years ago. And if it isn't, that needs to get fixed. And I just don't know, does it take a charter bill to change pronouns? He, she, it does?
It takes the legislature to change anything within the
Okay,
charter.
okay.
Or a vote of the people.
I thought they could like correct grammar, but maybe not, or no, okay. All right, well, thanks again, good work. Appreciate what you've done.
All right, Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you guys for your service. I know that you put in the hours that you have and the work that you've done serving on the Charter Committee. The hope is at the end of the day that you get to see what you worked on move forward. And while I don't disagree with several of your recommendations for charter changes, I don't know that they come to the level that we want to hand the legislature our charter, because once we hand it to them, it's no longer ours. It's theirs. And we've seen changes to that charter at the legislature over minor proposals in the past that have had some pretty major impacts on the charter. So depending on the mood of the legislature, what they what they tend to do with the bill once it's handed to them. And I think that the ideas that you brought forward are good ideas. I kind of have some of the same questions about the redistricting, even though it isn't a mandate or anything, about how we'd make that work if we had that capability. The gender neutral is a no-brainer. I mean, that's something that we should have done last charter bill, but I'm not sure that I can support opening the charter up and letting the legislature have it for the minor changes that we're looking at here, and that's not to say that you haven't done a good job doing what we've asked you to do. But I think it attests to some of the work that you've done in the past, the fact that these are the minor changes that we're looking at possibly doing. So we truly appreciate the job you do and the support you give us through that.
All right, any other questions? Councilman Breckus.
You know, it might be worth looking at that first year, and that was the year Megan Salcido staffed it. And I remember she was waiting for a long time for it to come out of LCB, and I remember looking over some sections with her. And maybe we should make sure that the legislative history didn't show that it didn't get done. I thought so.
Yeah.
I remember being told it was fixed.
Fixed,
I
yeah.
really do.
I thought so too.
So if I can provide some clarity, I think the fix that was proposed, and maybe ultimately it was not the fix as council intended, but the charter is gender neutral in the sense that anytime there's a reference to he or his, there's also a reference to she or her. With the proposed changes from the charter committee, the recommendation that they've made is that gender pronouns be removed altogether throughout the charter.
Oh, okay. And it's they? Is that what you're, they?
Yes, so it's replaced with non-gender pronouns or actual titles of an individual
Oh,
throughout.
the city attorney or okay.
Correct.
Well, we all missed that. Sorry about that. I'm sure it was clear in the packet.
At this time, I would say, unless there's any further questions for the charter committee or myself, move on to the next item regarding the discussion of a bill draft or not.
One more thing.
Please.
I just wanted to publicly acknowledge staff, Mr. Gillis, Ms. Turney, Mr. Hall, Mr. Shipman, for sitting through all of our meetings and going with us on this journey. I said Ms. Turney. They've been great. So kudos to staff and all the help they've provided us. Just want to get that on the record.
All right, thank you. Okay, thanks. All right, at this time, next item. Go right ahead, Mr. Gillis.
Again, for the record.
Sorry, it's been a long day, and we'll be here a lot longer tonight,
I
too, so.
understand. I understand. Well, it kind of leads into probably your last item of the night, which I get to handle as well. But just a reminder, as far as bill drafts that the city has at its disposal, we are allotted to based on a population range. We don't have to use both. We don't have to use either. But the deadline is September 1st for submission to LCB. So we'd be looking for decision on this item or any other items tonight. It's the last time the council meets on a regular meeting between now and September 1st. So be looking for council discussion and direction as to whether or not you'd like to proceed or not proceed with a charter bill.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it. All right, Councilman Breckus.
So just to be clear, you're asking on the charter bill or anything else?
Scott Gills, for the record, this item would really only potentially be for a charter bill.
Okay.
We'll get into the other broader legislative topics. J9
Is when we
presentation later
we
tonight.
adjourn this meeting and then go into, okay. I think not. I'm just, and I think Mr. McKenzie said it best, is we've been hard at work on it. And I think when we get to J9, we'll have some other issues where we feel we need to focus. And frankly, I think there's of the fiscal nature for us. We really do need to focus on some of the fiscal nature and maybe hold this one for another go, is my thoughts.
All right, thanks, Councilwoman Breckus. Any other comments from council members? Nothing? Then I'm going to have you give me a motion.
Move to not move forward with a BDR related to the Reno City Charter.
All right, thank you very much. I have a motion, and do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, the next item would be directed at the Reno City Charter Committee for future agenda items of their committee.
Okay.
Thank you, Council. So for the Charter Committee members, at our previous meeting, we said we were going to be in a holding pattern to see what the reaction of City Council was to our proposals. So my question to the committee, and if somebody wants to make a motion where we can set a future meeting, if we go to a legislator for a bill sponsor, there is no September 1st deadline attached to that, or the committee could just decide that we don't want to pursue it based off of what we're hearing from council today. But I think we should discuss that at an agendized meeting sometime in the future. So if I could get a motion just to have a meeting to be determined at some point in the future. Okay, so moved by Member Pullman, seconded by Member Rossi. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
I would just respectfully request a roll call vote on that, please. Unless you know the number.
Mr. Enos, Mr. Thornley, anybody else? Nays. Ms. Korbulik?
Can I do a roll call vote, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Just for
let's-
clarity
let's-
of the
yeah,
record.
Let's have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Dis,
Aye.
Pullman, Brown, Thornley, Deloria, Leader, Rossi, Stevens, Valletta, Williams, absent, Korbulik, Enos.
Yeah, but by my count, it
By one
passed,
vote?
Madam
Your
Clerk.
vote passes.
By one vote?
Okay.
Correct.
So I'll be in touch with all of you about setting a future date for that meeting. Is there any public comment?
We have none registered.
Okay, well, Mr. Rossi.
You can call me Mac. Nobody important here. Thank you. I've been on this committee for possibly almost 5 years now, and I just wanted to make one personal comment. Over the time, being the only layman on this group, that I've had the opportunity to see the hours that have been put in on this, and I just wanted to let you know that I had the experience of just observing from just a layman's point of view that that we've had quite a few attorneys on our group, and we've spent over the years many hours sometimes, and we had the opportunity one time to have a meeting where out of 6 attorneys, only 5 didn't show up, and usually our meetings are about 2 to 2.5 hours. With that meeting of only 1 attorney showing up, we were out of there in 45 minutes. So,
I love you.
Thank you,
I
Mac.
would agree, maybe you should have less attorneys in the room.
And,
Nothing personal.
and with that, seeing no further public comment, this meeting of the Reno Charter Committee is adjourned.
Carl's not laughing, just so you know. Awkward.